On this episode of China Uncensored, LinkedIn or linked out. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. If you're like me, you've come to realize that being an adult has been a terrible, terrible mistake. When you're a kid, yeah, it seems great. You can have cookies whenever you want. Sure, as long as you don't mind having your foot amputated from diabetes. That's part of what being an adult is, dealing with the utterly horrifying realities of life, such as having a job, and even worse, looking for a job. Fortunately, there's a distraction-free place you can go to job hunt, the internet. And nowhere on the internet is more popular than the world's largest social media platform for connecting professionals, LinkedIn. In 2011, LinkedIn surpassed even the number of MySpace users. Wow. People still use MySpace. Anyway, 2011 was also the year LinkedIn became a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange and even hosted a town hall with the President of the United States, Barack Obama. But their plans for world domination hit a little snag the same year. In February, during the revolutions in the Middle East known as the Arab Spring, the Chinese regime cracked down on the internet, banning social media that had been used so effectively by protesters in Egypt and Tunisia. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and yes, LinkedIn. Banned. But unlike those other social media networks, LinkedIn was quickly unblocked in China. What happened? No one knows for sure, but at the time, LinkedIn wasn't even a player in China, so it wasn't a big deal. That changed in February of this year. LinkedIn created a Chinese version of their platform. Now, LinkedIn CEO Jeff Weiner is a man who understands the reality of doing business in China. Don't get him wrong, LinkedIn is opposed to censorship, but sometimes filtering content is just necessary, you know? Like when a company needs to achieve the scale that we'd like to deliver to our membership, aka make as much money as we can by having hundreds of millions of users in China. A source familiar with the company's plans told courts LinkedIn will be required to censor content in China, but will only engage in filtering that is expressly required by Chinese law and only to Chinese members inside China. Well, apparently inside China also means Hong Kong. Even though under the one country, two systems policy, Hong Kong is supposed to be outside the reach of Chinese censors. On the 25th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre, Hong Kong LinkedIn users received emails that posts they made about it were blocked in China. Okay. Hong Kong is still part of China, I guess. But, I mean, it's not like LinkedIn is censoring the profiles of people in the United States, right? Meet Suman, senior analyst developer at Goldman Sachs. He received an email from LinkedIn telling him his profile is no longer viewable in China. Why? Well, Suman, you see, practices Falun Gong. He was told over the phone by two LinkedIn representatives that this was the problem. If he deleted any mention of Falun Gong on his profile, it would be unblocked. That was later softened to deleting just the parts that are critical of the Chinese government. You know, the government that's killing people who share his beliefs. Suman isn't the only one. I've heard of at least 3 other cases, though there may be more. One of the people didn't even mention anything critical about the Chinese government in her profile, just said that she practiced Falun Gong. I mean, it's only fair. LinkedIn wants to do business in China. They have to censor. Why shouldn't you? So what are the keywords or phrases that you need to be aware of to avoid having your LinkedIn profile blocked in China? Reporters for the Epoch Times sent an email to the social media giant for that information. Let me read their response. No. Well, that wasn't very social. Let me just clarify, that wasn't a selected quote. That was the entire email from a California-based web company that is apparently censoring profiles based on people's spiritual beliefs. Well, that sounds kind of bad. I mean, it's only because the regime trying to wipe out those people asked them to. In a phone interview with the LinkedIn Director of Corporate Communications, he said they do abide by Chinese censors, but in a way that's transparent. They send you emails telling you you're being censored. Can we please give them a Nobel Peace Prize? Look, there's certain realities you have to face if you're going to do business in China. Like the fact that that means you're pretty much doing business with the Chinese government, and they don't want other alternative opinions out there so they can keep brutalizing their own people. And they're able to keep doing that because Western companies like LinkedIn help them do it. And since we're all adults here, let's face some more of the horrifying realities of life. This isn't an isolated case. In March, Reader's Digest pulled a story from an edition meant for publication in Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Malaysia, and India because it mentioned Falun Gong once. It didn't even have anything to do with the story. It was an excerpt from a novel about Antarctica. According to New York Times, in November 2013, Bloomberg News killed an investigative story delving into corruption among Chinese leaders because of concerns it would affect sales of Bloomberg terminals in China. I covered that story here. In February, search results on Microsoft's Bing turned up very differently if you searched in Chinese instead of English. For instance, if you searched Dalai Lama in English, the first thing you see is his personal website. In Chinese, you get a documentary about the Dalai Lama by state-run CCTV. I wonder what they have to say about him. Western companies, what are you doing? I think I need a cookie. So what do you think of LinkedIn now? Does it affect how you use their services? Leave your comments below, share the video, and subscribe. Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.